Athlitiki Enosis Konstantinoupoleos is a Greek association football club based in Athens. Established in Athens in 1924 by Greek refugees from Constantinople in the wake of the Greco-Turkish War, AEK is one of the more successful clubs in Greek football, winning 29 national titles, and the team has regularly appeared in European competitions. AEK is a member of the European Club Association. The club was relegated from the Greek Super League after the 2012 Euro 13 season for the first time in its history. In an effort to discharge the immense debt created by years of mismanagement, its directors chose for the team to compete in the third-tier Football League 2 for the 2013-14 season, thus turning the club into an amateur club. History. The large Greek population of Constantinople, not unlike those of the other Ottoman urban centers, continued its athletic traditions in the form of numerous athletic clubs. Clubs such as Enosis Konstantinoupoleos from the Tatavla district, Megas Alexandros of the Theriakos, Hermes of Galata, Olympias of Therapia, and Kartikio of Chalcedon existed to promote Hellenic athletic and cultural ideals. These were amongst a dozen Greek-backed clubs that dominated the sporting landscape of the city in the years preceding World War I. After the war, with the influx of mainly French and English soldiers to Constantinople, many of the city clubs participated in regular competition with teams formed by the foreign troops. Taksim, Pira and Tatavla became the scene of weekly competitions in not only football, but of athletics, cycling, boxing and tennis. Of the clubs in the city, though, football was dominated by Enosis Konstantinoupoleos and Hermes. Hermes, one of the more popular clubs, was formed in 1875 by the Greek community of Pira. Forced to change its name to Pira Club in 1921, many of its athletes, and those of most other sporting clubs, fled during the population exchanges at the end of the Greco-Turkish War, and settled in Athens and Thessaloniki, 1924 Euro 1939. In 1924, a group of Constantinopolitan refugees met at the athletic shop of Emilios and Manelos Ionas on Veronsrou Street, in the center of Athens, and established A.E.K. The founders of A.E.K. established the club with the intention of providing athletic and cultural diversions for the thousands of predominantly Constantinopolitan and Anatolian refugees who had settled in the new suburbs of Athens. A.E.K. F.C. First Football Team, G.K., N. Kitsos, D.F., Iaremiades, D.F., T. Asteres, M.F., Kahirs, M.F., Paraskevas, M.F., Dimopoulos, M.F., Karagianidis, F.W., Bolters, F.W., Millers, F.W., Iliades, F.W., Georgiades. The first match was against EAS Athens in November 1924 and A.E.K. won it with 2-0. A.E.K.'s football team grew rapidly in popularity during the year 1920s, eclipsing the already established Athens-based refugee clubs, thanks mainly to the large pool of immigrants that were drawn to the club and due, in no small part, to the political connections and wealth of several of the club's board members. Not possessing a football ground, A.E.K. played most of its early matches at various locations around Athens, including the grounds of the Temple of Olympian Zeus and the Leoforos Alexandros Stadium. A.E.K.'s first president, Konstantinos Spinaudis, a journalist and associate of the then Greek Prime Minister Eleftherios Venizelos, petitioned the government to set aside land for the establishment of a sports ground. In 1926, land in Nea Philadelphia that was originally set aside for refugee housing, was donated as a training ground for the refugees' sports activities. A.E.K. began using the ground for training and by 1930 the property was signed over to the club. Venizelos soon approved the plans to build what was to become A.E.K.'s home ground for the next 70 years, the Nycos Goomers Stadium. The first home game, in November 1930, was an exhibition match against Olympiakos Piraeus that ended in a 2-2 draw. In 1928, Panathinaikos F.C., Olympiakos and A.E.K. began a dispute with the fledgling Hellenic Football Federation, decided to break away from the Athens Regional League and form an alliance called POK. During the dispute, POK organized friendly matches against each other and several continental European clubs. In 1929, though, the dispute ended in A.E.K. along with the other POK clubs, entered the EPO fold once again. In 1932, AEK won their first Greek Cup title, beating Aris Thessalonikis 5-3 in the final. The team boasted a number of star football players in Kostas Nestorius, Cleanthis Maropoulos, Trifon Zanitis, Michalis Delevinias, Giorgos Magiras and Sparos Skrivonos. The club's mixed success during the 1930s was highlighted by the first Greek Championship Cup double in 1939. 1940 Euro 1959. Under former player Kostas Nestorius as coach, AEK won the Greek Championship in 1940. With English coach Jack Babai at the reins, veteran players Maropoulos, Zanitis, Delevinias and Magiras, along with new blood Kostas Poulis, Giorgos Goulios, and Pavlos Eminaoulidis, AEK won the Greek Cup competitions of 1949 and 1950, beating Panathinaikos 2-1 and Aris 4-0. AEK won also the Athens Regional Championship of 1950, but the playoff games for the Pan-Hellenic title were not played, due to many players being called up for a prolonged training camp for the national team. The early 1950s saw the addition of the next generation of star footballers in Giannis Kanakis, Andreas Stamatiadis, and goalkeeper Stelios Sirifidis, and along with Kostas Poulis and Pavlos Eminaoulidis, AEK again won the Greek Cup title of 1956. In the final they beat Olympiakos 2-1 at Apostolos Nikolaouidis Stadium to win its fifth cup. The year 1957 saw the debut of one of the greatest forwards of the era, Kostas Nestorius. Having joined AEK from Panionios in 1956, Nestorius was forced to sit out the 1956 season because of a dispute between the two clubs over his transfer. In 1958 and 1959 he finished top goal scorer in the league, but it wasn't a Euro unregistered trademark T enough for AEK to win any title. On both occasions they finished second in the league, behind Olympiakos, 1960 Euro 1979. With Kostas Nestorius scoring goals aplenty in the early 1960s and the timely signing of attacker Dimitris Papaioannou in 1962, AEK went on to win the 1963 championship. Known affectionately as Memes by the AEK supporters, Papaioannou scored twice in the 1963 playoff against Panathinaikos, leveling the scores at 3-3 and giving AEK its first post-war championship title on goal aggregate. Coached by Hungarian-German Zdenek Saknad Dy, the championship team also consisted of veterans Nestorius, Sirifidis and Stamatiadis, Alekos Sofonidis, Stelios Skvofalakas, Giorgos Petridis, Manolis Kanelopoulos, and Miltos Papapostolos. The club followed up with cup victories in 1964 and 1966 on papers, and with the return of Ksakmidi to the coach's position in 1968, and with some great players in Kostas Nikolaouidis, Giorgos Karafeskos, Panagiotis Ventouris, Fotis Spalopoulos, Sparos Pomenis, Alekos Iodina, Nycos Stathopoulos and Andreas Papaioannou, AEK won the championship with relative ease, and became the first Greek football club to reach the quarter-final of European Champions Cup. The addition of goalkeeper Stelios Konstantinidis and Apostolos Toskas reinforced the team and allowed AEK to take its fifth championship title in 1971. AEK won also the unofficial Super Cup of 1971 beating Olympiakos 4-2 on penalty kicks, after two draws of 2-2 at Piraeus and 1-1 at NA Philadelphia. Mavros, Eleutherakis and Ardizoglu were part of the AEK outfit that dominated the Greek league in the late 1970s. Laukas Barlos took over the presidency of AEK in 1974, and with the help of Czech-Dutch coach František Vadhonk built one of the finest teams in the club's history. The Barlos golden era saw some of the greatest players ever to have played for AEK. Christos Ardizoglu, Giorgos Deeds, Giorgos Skrekis, the Germans Walter Wagner and Timo Zarnita, Dionysis Tsamis, Pantelis Nikolaou, Petros Ravassis, Bosnian Duan Bajavia, Takis Nikolaouidis, Stefanos Theodoridis, Christos Itzoglu, Nycos Christidis. Stelios Manolas was the mainstay in AEK's defence from 1980 to 1998. Captained by Papaionou, 1976 Euro 1977 saw AEK reach the semi-finals of the UEFA Cup competition, the first Greek football club to do so. Beating FC Dynamo Moscow 2-0, Derby County FC 2-0 and 3-2, Red Star Belgrade 2-0, and QPR 3-0 and 7-6 on penalties. AEK were eventually eliminated by Gianni Agnelli on registered trademark S Juventus FC. Juventus went on to win their first European title. It was during this period that AEK signed one of Greece's finest strikers, Thomas Mavros. He was an integral part of the team that reached the UEFA Cup semi-finals in 1976, but it was his devastating form that helped AEK take the 1978 Championship Cup double. The addition of former Panathinaikos FC stars Dimitris Domazos and Kostas Alouvrakis to the AEK roster the following year saw the club cap off their most successful decade to date by winning the 1979 championship. Under Laukos Barlos, the Nycos Goomers Stadium was finally completed with the addition of the iconic covered stand, or skepasti, which eventually became home to the most fanatic of AEK supporter groups, Original 21. The next generation of star players, fresh out of the AEK Academy, made their debut during this period. Stelios Manolas, Spyros Economopoulos, Vangelis Vlachos and Lysandros Georgamli, 1980 1999. With new president Michalis Arkadies and Austrian head coach Helmut Senikovic, AEK won the 1983 Greek Cup, beating PAOK FC 2-0 in the newly built Athens Olympic Stadium. Thomas Mavros and 21-year-old captain Vangelis Vlachos were the goal scorers. AEK also chased the elusive championship title and it finally came in 1989. Coached by former player Dusan Bajavia, AEK clinched the title after winning a crucial match 1-0 against Olympiacos at the Athens Olympic Stadium. Takis Karagiozopoulos scored the goal that gave AEK its first championship in a decade. AEK won also the Greek Super Cup of 1989, beating Panathinaikos on penalties. After the 1989 triumphs, under Bajavia, AEK built what was to become one of the most successful teams in its history. Led by Stelios Manolas, the team, which included Tony Savevsky, Daniel Batista, Vaios Karagiannis, Vasilis Dimitriades, Giorgos Savidis, Alekos Alexandris and Refik Angstrom at Bernarda three-quarters Ovia dominated the Greek league through the 1990s with 3 successive championship titles. AEK also won the Greek League Cup of 1990. In 1994 1995 AEK was the first Greek football club that participated in the group stage of the UEFA Champions League after defeating Scottish champions Rangers FC. AEK was eliminated by Ajax Amsterdam and AC Milan, who made it to the final. With Michalis Trichernas as president and Dusan Bajavia as coach, the club won the 1996 Greek Cup. Former player Petros Ravassis took over the coaching position when Dusan Bajavia defected to Pyrrhos-based rivals Olympiacos at the end of 1996, and led the team to its second Super Cup, beating Panathinaikos on penalties, and to its 11th Cup title in 1997, again beating Panathinaikos on penalties. By far AEK's most successful run with titles, the period also saw AEK sign talented players in Demis Nikolaidis, Christos Kostis, Vasilis Chiatas, Christos Maladinis, Andreas Zykos and Michalis Kassapis. Demis Nikolaidis, in particular, an AEK fan since childhood, declined more lucrative offers from Olympiacos and Panathinaikos FC to sign for his beloved club. During seasons 1996 Euro 1997 and 1997 Euro 1998, AEK progressed to the quarter-final of the European Cup Winners' Cup. In 1999, ex-president Dimitris Melisnidis organized a friendly match against FK Partizan, in Belgrade, during the height of the NATO bombing of Serbia. As a gesture of compassion and solidarity towards the embattled Serbs, The AEK players and management staff defied the international embargo and travelled to Belgrade for the match. The game ended 1-1, when after 60 minutes of play thousands of Serbian football fans invaded the pitch to embrace the footballers. 21st century, AEK won its 12th cup title in 2000 under coach Giannis Pathioukakis, defeating Nycos 3-0 in the final. The club continued its consistency in the championship of 2001-02, finishing second by goal aggregate to Olympiacos, and beating Olympiacos in the Greek Cup final. Dusan Baščević returned as coach in the summer of 2002, a move that sparked open hostility towards Baščević from a section of AEK supporters. Under Baščević, AEK progressed through the qualifying rounds in the 2002 UEFA Champions League by eliminating APOEL FC. Drawn in Group A with AS Roma, Real Madrid, and Racing Genk, AEK drew all their games and were knocked out of the competition. Off the field, AEK's home stadium for over 70 years, Nycos Goomers Stadium, was demolished and club president Chrysostomos Vsemiades, with the assistance of his bodyguards, allegedly assaulted team captain Demis Nikolaidis. After the altercation, and partly due to the club's growing financial problems from mismanagement, Nikolaidis was let on free transfer by mutual consent to Athlitiki Madrid. Unable to cope with the negativity from a large section of AEK fans, Bajavia resigned in 2004 during a match against Iraklis. By now, on the brink of bankruptcy, and losing most of its Euro 2004 stars and experienced players to other European clubs, AEK needed a miracle to prevent it from being relegated to the Greek amateur leagues. Though both Kostas Katsarenis and Nycos Limperopoulos remained, Vasilis Bourbokis, Grigorios Georgatos, Theodoros Zagorakis, Michaelis Kapsis, Michaelis Kassapis, Michel Creek, Vasilis Lakis, Vasilis Chiatas, and Ioannis Okas all left the club in the wake of the troubles. In 2003, Demis Nikolaidis and other significant AEK followers formed a supporters club Enosis 1924 in order to motivate all AEK supporters into taking up the club's shares and governance. The project was not fully realized because, in the meantime, businessmen decided to buy shares and invest money to the club. However, until today, Enosis 1924's chairman is member of the AEK F.C. board. In 2004, on the back of strong AEK fan support, Demis Nikolaidis, at the head of a consortium of businessmen, bought out the beleaguered club and became the new president. His primary task was to lead AEK out of its precarious financial position. The first success was an arrangement through the Greek justice system to write off most of the massive debt that previous club administrators had amassed, and to repay any remaining public debts in manageable installments. Securing the club's existence in the Alpha Athlitiki, Nikolaidis then began a program to rebuild AEK to its former glory. He appointed experienced former player Ilija Ivia as technical director of the club and brought back Fernando Santos as coach. The AEK fans, emboldened by Nikolaidis' efforts, followed suit by buying season ticket packages in record numbers. AEK recruited promising young players to strengthen a depleted team. Led by the experienced Katsarenis and Limperopoulos, and featuring Brazilian January Leo Car copyright czar, the club made it to the Greek Cup final for 7th time in 13 years but lost to Olympiacos with 3-0, finished second in the championship, and in the process, secured a place in the third qualifying round of the UEFA Champions League. For the 2006-07 season, former Real Betis coach Lorena Section Serra Ferrer was appointed to the coaching position after Fernando Santos's contract was not renewed. By beating Hearts over both legs, AEK progressed to the group stage of Champions League. The club obtained a total of 8 points, having beaten AC Milan 1-0, Lille 1-0, and managing 2 draws with Anderlecht. AEK finished second in the Greek Super League, qualifying again for the third round in the UEFA Champions League. For the 2007 August season, AEK changed kit sponsors from Adidas to Puma. They have played with Sevilla FC in the UEFA Champions League third qualifying round. The first leg has been played on August 15, away at the Rama-Cube Denzar Nchezpizjuan when AEK was defeated by 2 goals in the second leg played on September 3 at the Athens Olympic Stadium where AEK lost again by 1-4. In 2008, AEK completed the signings of Brazilian legend Rivaldo after he was left free from Olympiacos, Rodolfo Aruebrina, Carlos Papas and Argentine striker Ismael Blanco. Trianos Delas was rewarded with a new contract, keeping him at the club until summer 2009. On August 25 the Super League and EPO decided to postpone the opening season's games due to the fire disaster in the Peloponnese. After being eliminated from the UEFA Champions League, AEK were drawn to play FC Salzburg in the UEFA Cup. On September 20 in Athens, AEK defeated FC Salzburg 3-0. The second leg was played in Salzburg on October 4. AEK lost the match but still went through 3-1 on AG. On October 9 AEK were drawn in Group C in the UEFA Cup group stage along with Villarreal, Fiorentina, Mlada Boleslav, and Elfsborg. On October 25 AEK kicked off the group stages with a 1-1 draw away to Elfsborg. On November 29 AEK again drew 1-1, this time at home to Fiorentina. On December 5 AEK won Mlada Boleslav 1-0 away and on December 20 although AEK was home defeated 1-2 by Villarreal CF, finally booked a place in the knockout stage of the UEFA Cup, finishing third in the group. They were then drawn against Getafe CF in the third round. AEK has been advanced to the third round of UEFA Cup, for second consecutive season. On February 12 AEK parted company with Larina Section Serifera after a poor run of form and unsuccessful signings and replaced him with former player Nycos Konstantinoupoleos, on a caretaker basis, at the end of an indifferent season. The team initially finished in first place in the league, but after the court case between Apollon Kalliameria and Olympiacos for the illegal usage of a player in the 1-0 Apollon Kalliameria win earlier in the season, Olympiacos were awarded the 3 points in a court hearing, thus finishing 2 points ahead of AEK. AEK President Demis Nikolaidis and several other managers and chairmen have been angered with the court's decision, stating that the Hellenic Football Federation knew about the usage of the illegal player prior to the game and had indeed issued a registration but didn't do anything about it. Rival Panathinaikos challenged this result at the Court of Arbitration in Sport with no success, as the Hellenic Federation did not support the claim. Giorgos Donis was appointed head coach of AEK on May 14. His reign at the club did not go well. It all began when AEK failed to surpass AC Omonia in the UEFA Cup second qualifying round, meaning their elimination from European competitions for the season. Key player Rivaldo asked to leave the club to sign for Bunyodkor on August 27. The league campaign started very well after a win over rivals Panathinaikos in the opening game of the season, but poor performances and results from then on left AEK in a difficult situation. Head coach Giorgos Donis was eager to leave the club, but President Demis Nikolaidis did not allow him to leave. Nevertheless, Nikolaidis left due to these disappointing results and after a controversy with the club's supporters Original 21, leaving temporarily the presidency to member of the DC, Nycos Koulis and Takis Kanellopoulos. However, the series of disappointing results continued, bringing anger and insecure situations for everyone in the team. The first to be hit by this wave of disappointment and with the council of the team upset, was the coach Giorgos Donis, who was asked to leave the team. On November 21, 2008, AEK hired Duan Bajavia as head coach for the third time. However, after a while, Takis Kanellopoulos left the team, as he sparked a rivalry with Bajavia. On February 4, 2009, Nycos Konstantinoupoleos was elected as the 41st president of AEK F.C. Bajavik brought some much-needed stability to the club, and performances on the pitch improved vastly towards the end of the season, culminating in AEK's progression to the Greek Cup final against Olympiacos which was played on May 2, 2009 at Athens Olympic Stadium. AEK lost in the final 14-15 on penalties. AEK finished the regular season at fourth position, thus qualifying for the season's playoffs, in which they eventually finished second, just missing out on UEFA Champions League qualification. In the summer transfer period of 2010, AEK, despite being low on budget, managed to reinforce its ranks with many notable players. Club idols Nycos Libropoulos and Trianos Delas signed the last one-year contract of their careers, and many new and experienced players signed to AEK, the most notable of whom were Papabaouba Diop, Christian Nasuti and Christos Patsatsoglu amongst others. AEK qualified for the 2010 Euro 2011 Europa League group stage after defeating Dundee United 2-1 on aggregate. On October 7, 2010, Manolo Jimmer Copyright took over from Duan Bajavia at AEK Athens after he stepped down as AEK manager, agreeing to a 2-year deal. On April 30, 2011, AEK won the Greek Cup for 14th time, by defeating 3-0 Attribution F.C. at the final. To compensate the departures of Nycos Skoko, Papabaouba Diop, Sebastian Saja and Ismail Blanco in the summer of 2011, AEK signed amongst others the captain of Iceland's Area Degree Ergo Degree Johnson and the Colombian international Fabia N. Vargas. Due to financial problems on June 25, 2012, AEK's legend Thomas Mavros took club's management and on August 1, 2012 became president in an effort to save the club from financial disaster. Many other AEK former players like Vasilis Chiatas, Mimis Papaionou, Kostas Nestorius, Christos Kostas, Vangelis Vlachos, Christos Arvanitis, Giorgos Karafeskos, were hired to help the club return to previous glory days. Due to the bad results in September 30, 2012, Vangelis Vlachos was fired and Ewald Lienen hired as AEK's head coach. On April 9, 2013, Ewald Lienen was fired after disappointing results and AEK hired as head coach Trianos Delas, with Vasilis Borbokis and Akis Zykos for assistants. On April 19, 2013, a Super League disciplinary committee voted to dock AEK 3 points and award Panthrakikos a 3-0 win, after fans stormed the pitch and chased players from the field during the AEK Panthrakikos match on April 14, 2013. As a result, AEK was relegated from the Super League to the Football League for the first time in its history. In addition, AEK will start their Football League campaign on -2 points. However, in June 7, 2013, after an AEK Athens council, it was decided that AEK F.C. would become an amateur club and they would not participate in the Football League division for the season 2013-14. The club self-relegated and would participate to the Amateur Football League 2 division. On the same day, Dimitrios Melissanidis became president of the club, under the supervision of AEK Athens Sports Club, who returned to help the club. AEK managed to win easily the 6th group of the Amateur Football League 2 division with a record of 23 wins, 3 draws and only 1 defeat. Thus, AEK will participate in the Football League division for the season 2014-15. Colors and kit. The colors of yellow and black were adopted from AEK's connections with Constantinople and the Byzantine Empire. AEK have always worn predominantly yellow shirts, black shorts, and yellow or black socks. The only exception has been in the unusual, but notable, Kappa kits of the 1990s, or in recent years, mainly in European competitions, when the club has worn an all-yellow kit. AEK's traditional away colors are all black or all white. On a few occasions, the club has introduced a light blue, a grey, and even a dark scarlet kit as a third kit. AEK's current kit is manufactured by Puma, which is contracted to supply the club's kit from 2007 to 2014. Their previous kit manufacturer were Diadora, Kappa, Nike and Adidas. AEK's first shirt sponsor was Citizen, followed by Nissan, Athlitiki Enosis and Phoenix Asphalase, Janiki Bank, Firestone, Marfin, Alpha Digital, Piraeus Bank, which caused controversy because it was situated in Piraeus, a Euro home of fierce rivals Olympiacos, TIM, LG with Chevrolet on the sleeves, Folthnet on the shorts and Diners Club on the back, and 2009 a Euro 2010 was Diners Club. AEK's current shirt sponsor for 2010 a Euro 2013 is OPAP, an international service on the back of the shirt. Crest. In 1924, AEK adopted as their emblem the image of a double-headed eagle. When AEK was created by Greek refugees from Constantinople in the years following the Greco-Turkish War and subsequent population exchange, the emblem and colours were chosen as a reminder of lost homelands. They represent the club's historical ties to Constantinople. After all, the double-headed eagle is featured in the flag of the Greek Orthodox Church, whose headquarters are in Constantinople, and served as imperial emblem under the Palaiologos dynasty. AEK's main emblem underwent numerous minor changes between 1924 and 1982. The design of the eagle on the shirt badge was often not identical to the design of the eagle depicted on official club correspondence, merchandise and promotional material. All designs were considered official, however, it was not until 1982 that an identifiable, copyrighted design was established as the club's official, and shirt, badge. The emblem design was changed in 1989, and again in 1993 to the current shield design. Shirt sponsors and manufacturers, Stadium. Nycos Goomers Stadium was a multi-purpose stadium in near Philadelphia, a northwestern suburb of Athens, Greece. It was used mostly for football matches and was the home stadium of AEK Athens F.C. It was named after a one-time club president, Nicholas Goomers, who contributed to its building and later upgrading. Since the demolition in 2003 of one of the most historical home grounds in Greece, the Nycos Goomers Stadium, AEK's home ground since 1930, the club plays its home games at the 70,000 capacity Spiridon Louis in Athens. The Olympic Athletic Centre of Athens, also known as OAKA, is one of the most complete European athletic complexes. The Olympic Athletic Centre of Athens hosted the Mediterranean Games in 1991, the World Championship in Athletics in 1997, the 1994 and 2007 UEFA Champions League finals, as well as other important athletic and cultural events, the most significant of which remains the Summer Olympics in 2004. Attendance records, training facility. AEK Athens Training Complex in Sparta is the most expensive, the newest and one of the three biggest training centers in Greece. There are 3 regular pitches and 1 in synthetic grass. The main building of the center hosting amongst many others the team's offices, a press room and the players' rooms. The training ground houses both AEK Athens first team and reserves. AEK moved to the complex on November 2010. Affiliated clubs, BAOIUSK, AS Livorno Calcio, Olympique de Marseille. Supporters and rivalries. Supporters, AEK Athens has a large fan base. The majority of AEK supporters are refugees or of refugee descent from Constantinople and the forced population exchange of the Asia Minor catastrophe of 1923. Original 21 is the largest AEK Athens supporters club. The first attempt to organize AEK supporters was Gate 21, which took its name from the gate in the Nycos Goomers Stadium, near Philadelphia, where the most hardcore fans gathered. AEK Athens have also many supporters worldwide, most of them Greek immigrants, in places as North America, England, Australia and Cyprus. Supporters' friendships. There is a strong relationship between AEK Athens and AS Livorno, and Olympique Marseille. AEK fans often lift banners and create choreography in support of the fellow teams. A so-called triangle of brotherhood has developed between the most heavily supported fan clubs of Olympique de Marseille, Livorno, and AEK Athens, namely between Commando Ultras 84, Brigate Autonome Livornisi 99, and Original 21. In April 25, 2013, Fenerbahce section ESK fans arose a banner supporting AEK Athens, saying AEK, Ishimail Iimail, meaning AEK, hold on tightly. The clubs are also connected by the Greek star, Lefterkar 1/4 Epikavolt 1/4 Kandoniades, who played in both teams. However, it is not confirmed whether the clubs have a brotherhood. Rivalries. AEK FC's biggest rivalries are with Panathinaikos and Olympiakos. Against neighbours Panathinaikos, they contest the Athens local football derby. The rivalry started not only because of both competing for the title but also because of the refugee ancestry of AEK Athens fans and, By contrast, that Panathinaikos was considered the classic representative of Athenian high-class society. The rivalry with Olympiakos stems from the rivalry between two of the most successful Greek football clubs. The rivalry was particularly inflamed after the 1996 season when A.E.K. former star player and then manager Dusan Bajcevic moved to Olympiakos. Relationships with other clubs. A.E.K. F.C. has links with many football clubs in Greece and in other countries where Greek immigrants live, for example A.E.K. London, Ontario and A.E.K. Olympians F.C. In Canada, A.E.K. Waverley Wanderers S.C. in Australia, A.E.K. Beloyanis in Hungary, A.E.K. Kaukalia in Cyprus, A.E.K. Archagala, A.E.K. Chanian, A.E.K. Argus, A.E.K. Patron, A.E.K. Kalamitas, A.E.K. Kivlas, A.E.K. Agioi Konstantina, A.E.K. Tripolis and A.E.K. Katsaba Heraklion in Greece. The club also has a football academy in collaboration with Bankstown Berries F.C. in Sydney. European notable matches, honours. Domestic competitions, leagues, Super League Greece, Champions 1939, 1940, 1963, 1968, 1971, 1978, 1979, 1989, 1992, 1993, 1994. Football League 2, Champions 2014. Athens F.C. A Championship. 1940, 1946, 1947, 1950. Cups, Greek Cup, winners 1932, 1939, 1949, 1950, 1956, 1964, 1966, 1978, 1983, 1996, 1997, 2000, 2002, 2011. Greek Super Cup, winners 1971, 1989, 1996. Greek League Cup, winners 1990. European competitions, Balkans Cup, runners-up, 1967. UEFA Cup, semi-finals, 1976-77. Players, first team squad. Note, flags indicate national team as defined under FIFA eligibility rules. Players may hold more than one non-FIFA nationality. Out on loan. Note, flags indicate national team as defined under FIFA eligibility rules. Players may hold more than one non-FIFA nationality. One club men, Super League most appearances, Super League most goals, Super League top scorers, notable former players. For former A.E.K. players with a Wikipedia article see category, A.E.K. Athens F.C. players, personnel, ownership and current board, presidents, coaching, medical and academy staff, coaching staff, medical staff, academy staff. Key, served as caretaker manager. A Euro served as caretaker manager before being appointed permanently. Only competitive matches are counted. Wins, losses and draws are results at the final whistle. The results of penalty shootouts are not counted. Notable managers, Club Anthem, A.E.K.'s Club Anthem Empros tis A.E.K. Palikaria was composed by Stelios Kazantsidis, and sung by Mimis Papaionou. The lyrics were written by Christos Kolokotronis. References. External links, Greek, A.E.K. F.C., A.E.K. Club Anthem, A.E.K. F.C. UEFA.com, A.E.K. Athens Ultras Group, A.E.K. Arena GRIII Euro I plus or minus II paragraph I micron I to the first III-ish. Greek, A.E.K. News, A.E.K. History.